What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 30 of the Yard Podcast. I'm your host, Randy.
And I'm your host, Konu.
And we are excited, as always, to be back for another episode. But really quickly, as I say every single week, and I'm sure this is annoying and I apologize, but if you have not left a rating and review, please do so on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social at Dodger Yard on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of that good stuff. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Randy_Radcliffe.
And you can find my socials at Michael Konu, MYKALKONU.
And so with that said, let's jump into this episode. We don't have too much important stuff to talk about, but just random stuff that happens in the off season. This first thing actually is, though, very important. Unfortunately, we found out on Sunday, the Dodgers announced that Tommy Lasorda was hospitalized in Orange County and that he is in intensive care and resting comfortably. The Dodgers didn't really release much info, as I don't expect them to, in regards to something like this. Take what you will with a grain of salt, but TMZ came out with an article on Sunday as well. They actually had come out with the news before the Dodgers announced it. That's how I saw it first. However, in the article, it said he had been there for a week and it kind of took a turn for the worse, and that he was having heart issues. So that's all they gave us. They didn't really give us anything else. So with that said, I hope you're better soon, Tommy. You've been a part of this team forever. I'm so happy the Dodgers won the World Series, because he said he's been waiting for that since they last won it. So,
which he was here. So when you think of the Dodgers, you think of Vince Scully and Tommy Lasorda. So when this news came out, it was a bit scary. And like you said, I'm so glad they won the World Series. So at least, just in case something does go bad, at least he got to see that. Yeah. But hopefully he's fine, so he can watch the Dodgers run it back next year.
Yeah, he was there. Last place. They said he was at the clinching game. Luckily, they said it's not COVID related. So that's good news, all things considering, because my God, I'm so tired of losing people to that. But yeah, get well soon, Tommy. We all want to see you out there next year. Dodgers should have a couple more under their belt that they can hopefully bring you home. But with that said, the Dodgers did it. Well, actually, I don't even remember who announced it, but it came out this last week about the Dodgers. We all knew they were getting a documentary for winning the World Series. Every single team does. It was on MLB Shop the night they won. However, we just found out next week that Vince Scully will actually narrate the 2020 World Series documentary. It comes out on December 8th, so make sure you guys order that. However, I already ordered that one. You can return those, but the thing is, on February 9th, they're releasing a 20-hour documentary version that's going to include the NLDS clincher, NLCS, as well as all of the World Series win games. So that one's going to be even longer. So now I'm going to have to buy a second DVD so I can have both. But we got Vince Scully narrating our Dodgers documentary, so I feel like that's really all we could ask for. As Dodger fans, that made my entire week. Talking about having a good week, I don't know if you heard about everything that went on with Mookie over the last week. The dude just seems to do everything, racks up awards, even just all over the place. He gets drafted to teams and sports he doesn't play, all of that good stuff. But basically on Thursday, another great thing happened for him. The mayor of Nashville announced that he was the Nashville's Community Hero of the Week, because we all know he donated protective equipment to first responders. He sent lunches to hospital employees, and he surprised plenty of people with groceries during these difficult times. That same day, he was honored at his high school in Nashville, where they retired his jersey number, where he wore number 7. He actually thought he was just going there for like a photo shoot. He had no idea that they were doing that. So when they showed up, they had this whole thing. I saw a quick couple pictures of it. The whole band that was playing was wearing Dodger shirts. So that was actually super cool for him. And they also proclaimed November 12th as Mookie Betts Day. So he now has his own day in Nashville. And to be 100% honest, knowing he has 12 more years in Los Angeles, it would not surprise me if at some point he also has a day in LA, with everything he's trying to do here with his foundation, acts inspired by Mookie. And then, like I said, with the sports to start off this week, he was drafted by the Harlem Globetrotters in their 14th annual player draft. Apparently, this is something they do every year for the last 14 years. I don't know exactly what it means, but Mookie Betts has a Globetrotters jersey with his name and number on the back. A alongside Russell Wilson, a couple other people, and they even had Chad Boseman on there as a an honorary Globetrotter. So Mookie Betts had had himself a pretty fantastic week. So hey, Mookie, keep doing it. We'll take whatever we can in these times. We appreciate you doing everything you do in Dodger Blue. And then last thing for the Dodgers, they announced that they're going to actually have a drive-through festival at Dodger Stadium to celebrate the holidays. It's open nightly from November 27th to December 24th. It will cost $55 per person, which seems like a lot, but I guess if you have a car full of people, it's $11 each. It really isn't that bad. There's going to be a holiday light show, LED video displays. They're going to have fake snow, interactive displays with like the World Series championship trophy, all kind of stuff like that. Tickets did go on sale this morning at 10 a.m. So you can check that out. I actually want to try and do that. I should be back in California by then. So I definitely want to try that out. So if you go do that, take pictures, videos, tag us on social media so we can see that and share it. That's really it for Dodgers news. However, coming up this week, we had mentioned a while back about the Rule 5 draft. Teams have to protect their players, and that deadline is on Friday for who they want to protect and put on the 40-man roster. So, Konu, you did a decent amount of looking into this to explain to everyone and kind of what's going on. So if you want to take that and let everyone know what's going on.
I'm really just going to try to put it in the simplest terms. So basically what it is and how it works is players who signed at 19 and have played 4 minor league seasons, and players who signed at 18 and played 5 minor league seasons who are not on the 40-man roster are eligible to be drafted in the Rule 5 draft. When that player is selected, they must stay on that team's roster, the Major League roster, the 26-man roster, for the whole year. If not, they will be returned to the original team. For example, Connor Joe was drafted by the Giants. He did not last all year on the 26-man roster, so he's returned to the Dodgers. I think last year, Jordan Sheffield and Christian Santana were not added to the 40-man roster, but they also were not drafted because I don't think they were close enough. As it sits right now, the Dodgers have 34 people on the 40-man, so theoretically they have 6 spots left to protect people in the draft. And as far as eligible players, there's outfielder Donovan Casey, second baseman Omar Estevez, outfielder Jaron Kendall, outfielder first baseman Zach Rex, shortstop Leonel Valera, first baseman, third baseman Justin Yurchek, and pitchers Gerardo Carrillo, Brett DeGuise, I never know how to say his name, Andre Jackson, Marshall Kosowski, Logan Salo, Edwin Ucita, and Guillermo Zuniga. So out of those players, it's difficult to know which ones they would protect. I would assume Estevez. I think there's a lot of potential with Estevez, and I believe Marshall Kosowski as well could be added just because I think he's the closest to the majors. Jaron Kendall's a big name. He's not going to be added because he's not good. I don't expect anybody else will take him either. Zach Rex would make some kind of sense, but at the same time, he's completely redundant with Matt Beatty, they're basically the same player. So it's hard to know if they're really going to put him on the 40-man. But if they don't, somebody could possibly take him. Another name is Edwin Ucita, who's an interesting case because, as we know, he broke the COVID-19 protocols, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did.
And then he went back he went back to his country. So a little bit of trouble there. I can see the Dodgers adding him because he's shown potential and he showed like a lot of flashes in spring training and he's pretty close to the bigs. But if they don't add him, I could also see another team drafting him and giving him a shot in the bullpen.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I've watched him a couple times at spring training. He seemed to like have decent stuff, but he was struggling at the same time. So I don't know what'll happen with him. We did see the Dodgers very quickly kind of, I don't want to say they didn't move on, but they cut him very quickly when they left. They did not give him any chances to stay at alternate training site, any of that stuff. So I'm wondering what they'll do. I'd imagine they don't want to get like nothing for him if they have hopes he can do anything. So we shall see how that pans out. It should be interesting. So we will have more on that for you guys. We'll have more for that for you guys next week. One thing I did forget to actually mention was about Andrew Friedman. He did win the Executive of the Year award this year, so congratulations to him. That was announced today. No surprise there at all. On to MLB news. We had some amazing news on Friday. The Marlins made a historic hiring when they brought on Kim Ng to become their general manager. She is the first female GM in MLB history. She's now also the highest ranking woman in baseball operations among all 30 teams. She is also believed to be the first woman named as a GM for any of the professional men's sports teams in North America. She was with the Dodgers from 2002 to 2011 and has over 30 years of experience with 3 World Series championships under her belt. So she's the definition of overqualified for this job. She's been qualified for a very long time. A lot of people expected her to be hired a very long time ago. She joined the Dodgers as a vice president and assistant GM, and she left the Dodgers to take on a position of senior vice president of the baseball operations for MLB. But she had been applying for GM jobs over these last few years, didn't get it. However, she made it a point that she was not going to give up and continue to push and keep kind of fighting for what she believed in. And the entire baseball world seemed to rejoice when this happened. There was so much positivity. It was great to read that, like, in the comments on MLB, instead of everyone bashing her, we had a bunch of people saying that it's about time, that she deserves it. And I'm all for it. I've never been a fan of hiring someone based on their gender or saying, oh, like whatever the case may be, it needs to be qualified. But she was more than qualified. And like I said, has been for a very long time. So this is very, very well deserved. And I'm actually excited to see what she's going to do with the Marlins. We saw them come out this year, kind of surprise a bunch of people. Granted, it was a 60-game season, so a lot of weird things happened. But she's going to be great for baseball. And I'm super excited to see what the Marlins will do. And I kind of hope that she just gets free reign with that team and who knows, does some good stuff with them.
Yes.
Um,
So a few years ago, when Alex Anthopoulos and I believe some GM from the Mariners had left, and the Dodgers were reportedly looking for a GM, I was hoping that they would hire her. Like you mentioned, she had been here for 9 years, and by all accounts, she's great at her job, and she's respected by almost all people. And it made sense to me for them to do that. Unfortunately, it did not happen. But it's a great hire for the Marlins, great for Cam and in women in general. And hopefully, this will like open the door for more women, especially minority women, to be able to get prominent positions in such a male dominated field. So I think this is a win all around for baseball.
yep, I completely agree. So congratulations to her once again. Congratulations to the Marlins for helping shatter some ceilings, and good luck to them. I could care less about any other teams in the NL East, so go out there and do it next year. Speaking of next year, we've found out a little bit about Manfred and his thoughts on fans returning. He fully expects there to be fans in stadiums in 2021 as long as public health officials allow for it. So he wants fans back in there. He does not believe it will be sold out stadiums. Obviously, nothing is for sure as of yet. Everything is going to depend on vaccine, how they can social distance. We have no idea where we're going to be by the time April rolls around next year. So spring training's probably going to be our first kind of biggest guess as to where we're at when that rolls around. But again, that's not even until February. So Manfred already pushing, kind of expected that. We knew he didn't care about the fan safety when we saw how everything was handled in Arlington for the NLCS and World Series. So I truly hope that the public health officials can allow this to happen, but are on top of him and make sure it's being done in a way that's actually going to keep fans safe at the stadium. Because I think we can all agree we would all very much like to be able to attend a baseball game next year. So let's just hope that MLB does this right so we can actually do that. Um,
They
speaking
won't
about,
though.
huh?
They won't do it right.
No, they won't, but we just have to hope we have a vaccine so we don't have to count on them to do anything right. But I did want to bring up, because on Twitter, I had tweeted out right before we were recording this, we had questions, and someone had actually asked about the future for MLB in 2021 and kind of what we think is going to happen and how much things are going to change. And to be honest, it's really not something I've given thought to, even though I feel like it's going to come out of nowhere and we might have to. Um, I'm really curious to see what they're going to do when it comes to players using videos, because we all know they didn't want them in that tiny little room uh, watching video together. And we also saw how much of a hit that took on players and getting ready for the season. Like we saw JD Martinez, who's known as one of the best hitters in baseball, be absolutely garbage this year and could not hit to save his life. And he is huge on watching video. He said it himself. We saw Ronald Acuna struggled quite a bit at the plate, which you're not used to seeing.
Christian
So
Yelich,
yeah, I mean, I don't
Javi
know
Baez.
how they're going to do this, but one thing I'm wondering is, do you think in 2021, do you think players, obviously it's all going to depend on vaccines, but do you think moving forward, players are going to be a little bit more skeptical about getting face to face with fans when it comes to signing at games and having interactions or putting their arms around them for pictures? Like that's something I haven't thought about.
I think for now, absolutely. But once the vaccine happens, I think you'll start to see players go back to normal. Some might be more hesitant than others to do that, but I think for the most part, most major leaguers would still, because I think a lot of them enjoy doing that because that's their only really interaction they have with fans, especially at spring training, and fans love that. So I think for the most part, the MLB players would be still willing to do that after the vaccine. Some will be skeptical, but others would absolutely do that for the fans.
And yeah, I agree. I think it's a big part for them. And I think it's huge for the sport. Losing that would be very, very bad for baseball. I don't want to say adding nets was bad for baseball because that would be a very dumb statement. But adding the nets above the dugout and further along the lines have already taken away that interaction of fans who used to be able to sit in dugout club or sit in those baseline club seats and get autographs or have players toss them a ball easily without having to throw it over the net. So clearly that was for the right choice. That's a huge safety thing. I'm not saying I have a problem with that, but it would be a bummer if now we lost this as well as being able to walk further down the line and be face to face with players. So
Yeah, I was gonna say there are ways around that. It might be slightly inconvenienced, but walk your ass down the third base line,
yeah,
first base line,
no, that's yeah.
and go get an autograph.
Yeah, no, it's, I mean, at the end of the day, safety has to come first. So if it's too much for you to walk a little bit down the line, I don't know what to tell you. That's on you at that point. Um, but yeah, the future for MLB in 2021, I think is going to be contingent a lot on the vaccine, as well as we'll see how basketball plays out. They're already returning to season next month, which is insane to me because their season just ended like 3 weeks before ours did.
Yeah, but at the same time, there were a lot of teams who didn't play as well, so they were trying to find a balance for the teams who
Yeah,
made the
that's
bubble and
true.
teams who didn't make the bubble.
Yeah. So they're already, I mean, their season would have started already as is. So this kind of thing screwed them up just even running into their 2021 season. Baseball is lucky enough that they might escape it. I don't know if we're going to see a 162 game season. I would not be surprised to see that cut down. We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do for expanded playoffs. So there's so many questions for the future of baseball in 2021.
I do expect some fans to be able to see the games in some places because Texas is stupid. So imagine that. Florida, you probably
Florida,
wouldn't be able to watch games there.
the
Not happening in
Midwest,
not happening in California though.
or New York.
Or New York. That is correct.
Yeah.
As far as basketball goes, I think the Timberwolves have already said you're not going to be able to come in and watch the games. I mean, they don't have that many fans anyway, so it doesn't matter. The Lakers have also said that they are not going to allow fans in the games yet. So, I mean, I think that's the smart move. It's going to suck. The Warriors owner actually had said that he was willing to pay, I forgot, 35
Yeah,
million
30 million.
dollars so fans could have access to tests before they come into the game. I don't know if it'll work. There are going to be some other things that need to happen, but it's a better solution than doing nothing at all.
Yeah, I told you the whole testing thing makes me a little skeptical because we still don't know how reliable these tests are. However, I will say I respect the fact that they're at least trying instead of just saying fuck it, we can bring you guys back, so we will. We don't care what happens. Like at least they're
Yeah,
attempting. Not to mention Golden State, obviously California. They better sure as hell have a plan like that if they expect to convince Newsom of allowing there to
yeah,
be sports.
that's true.
So but either way, I mean, it's better than the Warriors just saying, we don't care. We either don't. I mean, it shows that they at least even care enough about the fan base to get them in, which is
Right.
huge. So yeah, I
And
think,
I know a lot of people were skeptical, like, oh, it's just a money making move, but they're actually spending money to make money, whereas the other places are just making money.
yeah, and it won't be
They don't
full
care whether you get sick or
capacity.
not. Right.
Yeah, it's not going to be full capacity. So even they might not even make money. They might break even, but they're not going to be making a ton of money because it's even a shortened season for them. So,
Yeah, about
yeah,
10 games, I think. Yeah.
yeah. So good move by the Warriors there. Yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see kind of what's going on there. We did not that this, I guess it does have to do with the future, but not so much sticking on this line. I wanted to go back and then we have plenty of random things to talk about. But on Monday, this is more so just NL West news, I guess you could say. The Padres announced that they bought out the 2 final arbitration years of Mike Clevenger's contract, which is cool, great for them. However, they also announced that he's having Tommy John surgery. So essentially, this 2-year contract has now turned into maybe an 8 to 12-month contract, depending on how quickly he comes back. And they have no rotation outside of Lamet, Paddock, and Davies. So they have a ton of prospects. Don't get me wrong. But this is a huge hit for them when they thought, I think Clevenger was going to either be their ace or right behind Lamet. So I don't know what's going to happen. It
Yeah.
sucks.
I think Lamet was probably going to be their opening day starter,
Yeah.
followed by Clevenger, Paddock, and then
And
Davies, and then
yeah, maybe
the
we'd
I
see
can't remember
Gore.
the
Gore.
that's it. Mackenzie Gore, that's his name. Yeah,
Yeah. So
would
I
be
don't know if we
the
would have
fifth
saw
starter. Yeah,
him, but
we're
kind of
probably going
makes,
to end up seeing him now.
you know what though makes this even more interesting is we've heard Trevor Bauer talk about 1-year contracts this entire time. If he's serious about one-year contracts, this would be a great move for the Padres to go after him for 1 year because it gives them that
But
replacement.
how analytically are the Padres? Because
I don't
he's
know
big
because
on
I know he's
analytics.
insane. Yeah, and he's
So
not. Well,
yeah,
yeah. Either they have to be huge on analytics, or they're gonna have to tell him we don't care what you do on your end of things. We're just not analytic based as a. But I want to say I think they are, but I'm not 100% right. Or I'm not 100%
because
sure.
when
But
I think analytics, I think Rays and Dodgers mostly.
yeah, I think the
So
Astros are big analytically
Astros,
too.
yeah,
But who
yeah.
knows? Who knows how much of
I
that's
don't
even
think he's gonna
true?
go there.
Yeah, no, I doubt it. I don't know how you could, but um actually, since we're talking about the Astros, I want to bring something up, and I know you want to know why I'm bringing this up, so I'm going to tell you ahead of time. I'm bringing it up because I saw it in an article from a writer, as well as other Dodger fans when I asked what free agents they were interested in. But a name that I kept coming across was former Astro Michael Brantley. Now, however, I just want to make something clear right off the bat. He was not on the 2017 or 2018. Wait, no, he was not 2018. He was 2019, 2020. So he was not a part of the cheating team that the Dodgers played or in 2018. I can't tell you anything about him in 2019, but to clear that up off the bat, he was not on that cheating team that screwed us. So I'm assuming you want nothing to do with him based on your
Yeah,
response.
I didn't get it because he's like 35, I believe. He's not a great fielder. Yet another left-handed batter, and I really want the line to be more balanced. He's a very good contact hitter. Don't get me wrong, and the Dodgers definitely do need that. But he doesn't hit well versus lefties, which is something the Dodgers desperately need. So I don't see any upside of having him.
I thought he was interesting, but then as I looked at it more and the whole lefty thing, I was like, this seems useless. But I saw some people talking about it, so I did think it was a little bit interesting. Um, this one makes me laugh because I don't even know how much it's worth talking about, but I did put it on Twitter and Instagram, so we are going to talk about it here. But that ridiculous trade proposal for Francisco Lindor, that was some next level craziness in my mind. 1 year of Lindor for Matt Beatty. Was it Cody Thomas? Cody
Yeah,
Thomas and
and Dustin
Dustin
May.
May. So I don't know why that was even brought up by the person who suggested it be a trade proposal. I'm not sure why we would ever trade away Dustin May for 1 year of Lindor, not to mention we arguably have the best hitting shortstop in baseball.
So here's the thing. I am completely in the minority here. I saw that poll and I clicked yes. I'm going to be 100% with you. I would 100% do this. Obviously, it's contingent on Seager. If Seager's willing to move, I pull the trigger. If not, then it's cool. We don't need to make the deal. I understand there's a lot of risk here because you're going to have to pay him, Seager, plus creating money for Belly and Bueller in the future. But it's a risk that I would be okay taking. I mean, you lose Dustin May, yes, that's really going to hurt. Who cares about Beatty and Thomas? I'm sorry, I don't. They're not They're easily replaceable. And it's not the worst thing in the world. And the Dodgers have so much pitching potential that this will create a spot for a Josiah Gray. Now, of course, a lot of these pitchers like Beater and I always blank on names. The first round pick from Louisville,
Oh, Miller.
Bobby Miller. I mean, they could not work out. There's always that chance. But yeah, so again, I'm not denying there's a risk, but it's one that I'm 100% willing to take and have zero regrets. Kind of like the Mookie Betts deal. I mean, that one obviously needed to be made more than this Lindor deal. You got rid of Verdugo for 1 year of Betts, would end up turning out to be 12 since he resigned. So again, yes, there's risk. I'm willing to admit that, but I feel like with the Dodgers rotation and all the pitchers coming up, if you trade May, that leaves Gonsolin in a spot again for Gray, maybe even Mitchell White. Get some time for Beater and Miller to get ready, and I don't see any downside to it, to be honest. So
So
yeah,
let me
I
ask you really quickly then. You're having, before you make this trade, if you're Friedman, you're having a conversation with Corey Seager and asking, are you comfortable
100%.
with moving to third base?
100%, yes.
Okay. If the conversation is had with Seager ahead of time and Seager
And he
tells
says
me,
no, then I don't make it.
yeah, if Seager tells me ahead of time, I'm okay with making the trade. I want to be here long term. And there is talk with Lindor ahead of time that he would sign long term, then I'd be more willing to have the discussion. But if there's any slight possibility at all that this move is done without Seager saying he is okay with it, then I would not even give it the time of day, because losing Seager to potentially have Lindor just is not worth it for me, in my opinion. Lindor is incredible defensively, but when it comes to their bats and what they're doing, Seager's on a whole nother level right now. So yeah, my biggest thing kind of, I think, is more so it's not, I don't want to lose Dustin May, I do think we have a lot of pitching. I do believe though, you can never have too much pitching. So it worries me a little bit. However, when it's someone like Lindor, it is kind of a gamble I think you can take, and it wouldn't necessarily hurt a team like the Dodgers. Like you mentioned, they may not have another Dustin May, but they have someone who might only be a couple steps below that, but will be more than good enough to take over what Dustin May was doing.
My thinking is you just won the World Series. At this point, you're playing with house money.
Yeah. Basically everything's in their hands right now. They could do whatever they want. They could trade for whoever they want. They could sign for whoever they want, which makes this part a little bit interesting. We're seeing a lot of things go down in Chicago over these last few days. First things first, we found out today, so we'll go a little bit more into that in a minute, but Theo Epstein actually stepped down as their president of baseball operations. But even prior to that, we found out that the Cubs are basically having a fire sale, and if they're making everyone available. And I know you wanted to know if I would trade for any players from the Cubs. The only one that even piques my interest slightly would be Chris Bryant, but I don't know how much we would have to trade for that. And I also don't know how he's going to be. He's injury prone. He did not have a good year in 2020. However, I'm trying not to hold that against any player, because 2020 was just a fucked up season. So I don't want to hold that against him, because he has been fantastic. He does get hurt a lot. But I'd want to know more so what we're giving up. I wouldn't even necessarily care if it's only for one, because it's what, for 1 year, or is it two? One. He's a rental. Okay. So I think it'd just be more so what we'd have to give up, and I'd be willing to take a chance, because I still believe the DH is going to stay in the NL for 2021. We don't have an answer yet, which is actually extremely frustrating. MLB, figure it out so teams know whether or not NL teams know they need to sign a DH or not. Like, this isn't fair to those guys like Ozuna, who just had a killer season and is now just sitting there waiting. Do I have a DH spot? Do I have to play outfield? Like, figure it out so everyone else can figure it out. But if the DH sticks around, you can still sign Turner and sign Chris Bryant. So if something happens, Chris Bryant can't play for a week, you can still fill him in with Turner. You still have Turner's bat, Turner's leadership, as well as, how's Chris Bryant defensively? Is he?
Not great.
He's not great, but he's okay. But
right. But he can play third, left, and right. So he's true. Got positional versatility.
I wouldn't mind either having him in left field too if the DH isn't a thing. We could always, although I still am kind of interested in putting Gavin Lux out there if he's not going to be able to throw a ball from second base. Sign LeMahieu, put him at second, put Lux in left field. I don't care. So I'm kind of don't know how I feel about Cubs players. I have always felt like that team was incredibly overhyped. They won in 2016 and they were supposed to be this dynasty. And since then they have actually kind of been absolutely nothing. Nobody on that team has been above the level impressive. Nobody's done anything crazy. Nobody's done anything that's made you think they really have a shot again at winning, in my opinion. So I don't care too much for any players. I don't know your thought on that.
So when I first saw that they were having a fire sale, I immediately thought, it'd be nice to give you Darvish another shot. I think
That's true. Okay.
we treated him
Yeah.
completely unfairly. But at the same time, what is he, 32 now? I mean, still good. He had, I don't know where he finished in the Cy Young, but he was up there. He had a really great season. And then the second player I came to, again, it's going to depend on Seager, but I like Javi Baez. Bad year this year, but again, I'm not going to hold 2020 against him. The previous 3 years, really good. He's amazing defensively. He's so goddamn smooth. He's also a right-handed bat, which the Dodgers desperately need. My biggest issue with him is he walks none and strikes out a ton. So that's a problem. Not contact at all. But I feel like with some different coaching, he might be slightly better. And even if he's slightly better, he's still a really good player. So, and he's only 27, so I would definitely take Javi Baez. It might take a lot to get him though. So it would depend on the package for him. But those are the only two I would want. I do like Chris Bryant, but like he's Justin Turner. He's injury prone. Anthony Rizzo out. Their bullpens suck. So I don't. Yeah.
Really quickly, I wanted to go back to you, Darvish. He will be 34 next season. However, that dude's locked down until his 36. Well, he's locked down through 2023, and he's making about 20 million a year. He's making 22, 19, 18 over the next 3 years.
It's not that bad, actually.
It's not that bad. I would just worry about his age, but he's also a workhorse. I feel like he's not someone who really gets hurt all that much. And he's shown he has it. And like you said, the fan base, we kind of all destroyed him a little bit. However, I just wonder though, with the Dodgers, like if they don't trade May, how much room does someone like Darvish have in our rotation 2 years from now when you have guys like Gray, Gonsolin, Buehler, Urias, because guys like Gray and White, I really want to see them get a chance in 2021. Even if it's not on the opening day roster, that's completely fine. It's not like they got that much work this year, so I'd like to see them maybe get some work at AAA first anyways, unless they just come out and destroy spring training. But I would really like to see Gray and White get some work in next year because I think they both have the potential. And
I really want to see Gray. I'm not that high on White. I prefer he be in the bullpen or traded. But I'm sure he'll get a shot. He pitched against the Rangers. He didn't do too bad.
No, he didn't. My thing is now that we've won a World Series championship, like I've always been of the type of like, screw the young players. If they get their chance for an opportunity, they do. Let's win a World Series championship. But now, like, we've won it. So now my goal is like, let's figure out what the hell we're doing with Gavin Lux. Do not start him in AAA next year. Start him on the big league team. Figure it out. Either trade him or put him in this team and let's do something with him. So guys like Gray and Mitchell White, guys that are on the cusp, I want to see them get their opportunity and get their chance because we won our World Series. And they're so good. Yeah, they're so good that I'm not worried about them not giving us a chance to win a World Series if they're on there versus somebody else. Like, these are still very good prospects. They just haven't got the opportunity yet because we're stacked in every aspect.
They'll most likely start out in the bullpen, though.
Yeah, which is fine. I just want to see them get that opportunity. I don't want my issue with Darvish isn't his talent or what he can do. My issue with Darvish is, does he end up blocking someone from a spot that could be used? More so than anything, but it's not like I would be mad if Yu Darvish came back. Just not necessarily on my list, I would say, but he's also not a horrible option depending what they'd have to give up.
My only thing was, I'm really big on innings eaters. They don't have to necessarily be the greatest pitchers ever, but them going 7 innings, 8 innings and giving up 3 or 4 runs, that's enough to keep you in the ball game.
Oh,
And
dude, in the
those go a
World
long
Series,
way.
in the playoffs, in the World Series, that would have been massive instead
Yeah.
of having to throw May, Urias, and Gonsolin out there for a combined 7 innings.
Yeah.
Like having something like that would have been massive. So, back to the Theo Epstein really quickly. We're almost done here. Only a couple things left. Someone on Twitter asked about hiring him as the Dodgers GM. And I've seen a couple people in the comments, not for the Dodgers, but a lot of fan bases wanting Epstein. He already said he's taking the year off. So this isn't an option anyways, but hypothetically thinking or speaking, what do you think about Epstein?
No. And I don't want to be disrespectful or anything, but so like you had mentioned, the Cubs have been overrated. Everybody thought they were going to be this dynasty. He's traded away all these prospects and players for such and such, and it has not worked. The pitching's been bad. The bullpen's been bad. Chris Bryant's been hurt. Who do they have in that offense besides Bryant, Rizzo, Baez, and Castillo? I know a lot
Schwarber,
of people like
but
Schwarber, not good.
like I don't know.
Ian,
Yeah,
Ian Happ, it has potential.
is it
He can move around the
Bodie,
diamond, but
Bote, whatever it is?
yeah, but so like they're not trash. They're just like a middling back end of the playoff type of team. Like if for basketball's sake, they are a 7 or 8 seed every year.
And let's be
Not
honest.
good enough.
Let's be honest. The NL Central is trash. That is not a good division at all. And I think we saw how weak the Central Division was all around in the playoffs when 7 of their teams made it to the playoffs and not one of them advanced to the next round. The Cubs are having a hard time beating out teams like the Brewers and the Cardinals. My biggest thing is if it's not broken, you don't fix it. Did the Dodgers really need a GM when Friedman's killing it the way he is and the system's working the way it has since Zaidi's left? I don't necessarily think so. I would rather leave Friedman. In my opinion, he's probably one of the best in baseball at what he does, if not the best. I don't want anyone else to have that power not over him, but in with him. I want him to have his power and then go to other people for like their opinions and go, hey, do we finish off this trade? Or what do you think about this player? Blah, blah, blah. I don't necessarily want a GM though. I think the Dodgers work the best the way they are. We've seen it. Friedman continues to fleece people. We've said it I've said it first. I admitted it a lot of times. I was not a fan of the initial trade to Boston, but Friedman knew what he was doing. He had to have known Mookie wanted out of Boston or have some idea. So he knew when he was making this trade that it wasn't just this is a 1-year thing for sure. So in reality, when you put up what Friedman gave up to essentially get 12 years of Betts, he's continuing to fleece teams because it's what he does. I have no interest in giving anyone else that power right now, the way that Friedman has handled this team. So I don't know if the Dodgers have any interest in giving anyone that kind of power, to be honest, when it all comes down to it. So I'm on the same page there with you. And it actually kind of leads into something else I have. Again, this is from Twitter. I think you know how I feel about this, so I'm not going to stick on this very long. They want to know if Roberts is a good manager. I'm always going to stick yes. He makes dumb mistakes. Every single manager in baseball does. I think it's very easy to bitch about your manager because that's the manager you probably watch the most, and those are the mistakes that are going to stab you in the heart the most. But hey, he's not Kevin Cash. At least that didn't happen. So, I mean, I think he's a great manager. I think what people view managers as now are not what they are now. Managers, their entire job is to not just put a lineup out and bring in the best pitcher. There's so many jobs that go into it. And I don't think people understand how attached these players are to Dave Roberts and what he means to them as just like a figure in their life. And how much they've publicly come out and complimented him, that he's a huge reason. I mean, Max Muncy came out. He did not have a great playoff at all. He had a horrible season, but he had moments where he came through. He was drawing his walks in the playoffs. And he said the only reason why he was able to somewhat turn it around in the playoffs was because Roberts never gave up on him. Granted, I know a lot of people wanted him to move Muncy down. I did too. But at the end of the day, it worked. And that confidence will now lead Muncy probably into a stronger 2021 than had what they done by pulling him and maybe having the same result of still winning the World Series. I just think there's so much more that goes into managing than he made a bad call or he put out a bad lineup or bad pinch hitter or brought in the wrong pitcher. Um, I mean, let's be honest, no other manager was even taking us to the World Series prior to Dave Roberts. So, I mean, let's not pretend like there weren't other managers who had a good team. Look at that team in 2013, 2000. I mean, we had our chances to get there and win. Other managers couldn't do it. Other players couldn't do it. I love Dave Roberts. I will always defend Dave Roberts. He makes dumb decisions at times, but overall, I think he is a fantastic manager for the group of guys that we have.
Uh, Pretty much ditto. I think he's a good manager. He does make a lot of dumb mistakes. The thing is, a lot of managers make dumb mistakes, but I feel like his come out like just like the worst possible times. The one thing I've said this a lot on this podcast, but one thing I do want him to do is stop putting Baez in with runners on base. It never works.
I don't think Baez is coming back. So
actually,
who knows? If he doesn't, yeah, I don't think he does.
That would be my one thing is if you know certain players are not capable or good enough in these situations, or they continue to let you down in these situations, stop putting them in there. I know you have confidence in them, and that's great to give them confidence, but we're in like at the World Series or the NLCS. Now it's not the time to continue to have confidence in somebody when they clearly can't do it.
Yeah.
But other than that, the players, like you said, the players love him. So yeah, there should be no other manager.
His loyalty is pretty insane. I will give him that. I respect it because I do think you have to earn the trust of some of your players, but there are times where it's just like, okay, you didn't need to trust him that much.
Yeah. The one thing though is, and I want to give him credit for this, he really stopped using Jansen for
a
good part of the playoffs, and that I think really helped the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think
no offense to Jansen, I shit on him a lot. I think he's a really good dude, and for everybody who comes at his family, I don't like that. Leave the family out of it; they have nothing to do with it. There was a point last year where he blew a save, and fans were yelling at his wife and kids. They're not Kenley Jansen; they have nothing to do with how he does on the field. So leave the family and kids out of it. Now, I give Jansen a lot of shit, but he seems like a good dude, so I don't want to keep like bashing him. But it really helped the Dodgers when they stopped using him.
Yeah, it did. So yeah, that part I was big on too. I was a big fan of Roberts kind of cutting that a little bit. I think that was probably hard for him, but in the end it worked out. Jansen was on the field smiling, had his World Series. So I think at the end of the day, all parties would agree that it worked out for the best and they were okay with how it turned out. So yeah, I love Roberts. I hope he's here for a while. There are my complaints I have about him, but again, I think any manager that comes to the Dodgers, we're gonna have reasons to bitch and complain because it's our team, and all we want to see is them to succeed and win. Last question from Twitter was the future of our team, kind of like what we see, if much is gonna change. My kind of guess is I really don't think much is changing from the team we have now. We might have a couple extra guys, but I think for the most part, what we see in 2021 will mimic a lot of 2020. I think we'll have a set lineup for the most part. I think we're going to see Betts at 1 and Seager at 2. I just think we're going to see a lot more consistency, whereas in the years past, we saw lineups constantly changing. Like, I have no idea who's going to be back. Obviously, if someone's like Jock is back, we're going to do some platooning a little bit. Pollock might need some platooning against like righties, whatever the case may be. But honestly, I feel like the future of our team is kind of just what we've seen all of 2020 and even a little bit of 2019. They're just going to stick with the guys they've got. They made that big move for Mookie, so I don't really expect any other big moves. But I do expect Friedman to kind of sit back and wait and see. We have the non-tender deadline coming up soon, and I think that might be huge for a lot of teams. So we'll see what happens soon with our guys. Is there anything in 2021 specifically you're looking forward to?
I mean, kind of like you mentioned with the young guys, just giving them a shot and seeing what you have. That's what I wanted this year since it was such a short season. Didn't happen. They won the World Series, so can't really complain about it. But yeah, giving them a shot to see what you really have. Stop using them sparingly, and because young people, young players especially, they need consistency. They need to be in the lineup every day to work through their issues because they're going to be issues. So if you keep using them sparingly, the issues are just going to be more glaring, and they won't be able to work through them because they're not playing every day. So that is something I'm looking forward to. Also, the bullpen needs some revamping, so interested to see what they do there. Obviously, I would like a Liam Hendricks. There's also somebody on the block, Josh Hader, who we talked about in a previous episode. And depending on the package, it might be the smartest move for the Dodgers to make. He's pretty reliable. He's a good closer. So if they miss out on Hendricks, I think Hader will be like a good backup plan. Now I know like there are a lot of questions about how he is as a person, since those like tweets resurfaced, but it's possible he's changed. It's also possible he hasn't. Who knows? But like teammates have vouched for him. Also, earlier this year, when everything was going on in Wisconsin, he was the one that spoke up and got the Brewers game canceled after everything happened. It was after the Bucks, of course, but he stepped up and he did what he had to do to make sure there was no baseball games. So I think the Dodgers will have to do their due diligence, checking on him personally. I mean, they'll know way more than we will ever know. But if all checks out and he is like a changed and better person, then I'd sign off on that trade. Now, you don't have to forgive him, but I feel like, again, if he's changed and everything checks out and the Dodgers make that trade, I don't see anything wrong with it.
My thing on it is I have always believed anyone has the chance to change. I think there are things that are forgivable, but I also think there are things that are unforgivable. What he did, I think, falls under the line of it can be forgivable. Again, the same thing I said last week. It is not my place to accept his apology. So I'm not even going to do that. For me to personally forgive him doesn't even actually mean much. And I'm not even going to say I forgave him. I guess what I should be saying is I think there is the opportunity for change. And I think if that is there and people are still vouching for him, and I think the Dodgers can go about that in a way that isn't just like, oh, his teammates say he's a good guy. Like, I feel like they could go deeper than that to really figure it out. If he's out here trying to do things to make a difference and he's not behind the scenes still saying what he was back then I'd be more willing to be like, okay, maybe we're going to give you this chance, but don't screw it up. And then go from there. I know there's a lot of fans that don't feel that way. I know there's a lot of fans that'll tell me they don't like what I have to say and that I shouldn't like him, whatever the case may be. I am sorry. There are guys I don't like. I've probably talked shit on Hader. I've talked shit on Bauer. But there are people that I am willing to kind of wait to see what they're doing and if they've changed. And Hader, that was so many years ago. This wasn't like he sent the tweets out last season. He did send them out a while ago. So again, Dodgers need to do their due diligence. I would want to make sure everyone on the team is even comfortable, because you do have to think about the players on the team that he could have offended or upset, hurt, anything like that. It does matter.
Right. You have to check in with Mookie and Price to make sure.
Because stuff like that, it matters. It's not even just the optics of the team from the fan base perspective. It is also the matter of the clubhouse and making sure that every player in there feels comfortable being around the people that they're around. So yeah, there would just be a lot of things that would have to go into it. But my question, kind of my last question for this, and then we'll be done, is what do you think would be fair to give up for him, considering how big of a name he is out of the bullpen and knowing.
How long is he under contract?
I think 2 years. Yeah, I'm gonna look, but I'm pretty sure it's 2 more.
I think I said last week that to give up Lux. It sounds steep, but again, this is just more of me personally. If Lux isn't gonna play every day, I want him in a situation where he will, and he would play every day in Milwaukee. At home, he might be more comfortable. So a package centered around Lux would be fine, I think, for both teams, actually.
I actually was just thinking, like, I wonder how much. Actually, 3 more years under contract. So
you can have Devin Williams be your closer, or they still have Knebel, right? He can be the closer till Devin Williams is certified to be ready to be their closer. And then you get a top prospect who might fit well with Hiria, who's also a good hitter.
Yeah.
Bad, but offensively they should be really good.
Yeah, so he's a free agent when he turns 30. So he's still got 3 more years. He'll be arbitration eligible next year, and then of course the 2 after that. So well, he's already arbitration eligible. Next year will be his 2nd year of arbitration. So yeah,
Usually you
he's
don't
got
want top prospect position players for closers, but in this case, I think it'd make the most sense for both teams just because I the Dodgers could find somebody else in the outfield, and they need a closer, and the Brewers need some other young hitters because the one who hit the home run off of Bueller, not good.
yeah.
Orlando Arcia, not good.
Yeah. So yeah, it could work, and maybe something like that for Lux being close to home could completely change his career. You never know. But I think it's safe to say the Dodgers, as always, they're never going to sit still. This bullpen, I think, is our biggest concern, and then maybe figuring out who's going to take over third, which isn't a huge concern. But I feel like that's probably their main priorities, with number 1, like I said, being the bullpen. So I would be very shocked if we don't see much being done for the bullpen. I would love to see Hendricks. I wouldn't mind seeing Trinan back, and it's a bummer that we lost Ferguson because he would have been great to have next year. So Ferguson, get well soon.
Who do we have as a lefty out of the bullpen? Just Victor Gonzalez right now, huh?
Victor Gonzalez, depends on what they do with Urias, who I'm sure will be a starter.
Starter.
No, Alexander, Kolarek. Yeah. They need
Not
lefties.
Great.
Yeah. They need a strong lefty coming out of there. So
I mean, there is Brad Hand, but his velocity he's still good, but his velocity is diminished.
So yeah, we'll see. I'm excited to see what goes on with the non-tender deadline. We might see some exciting names come out there that Friedman could work with.
Just be non-tendered and a free agent.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But that was all I had for this week. So if you don't have anything else, as always, we appreciate you guys. Make sure to leave a rating and review. Follow us on social at Dodger Yard. Yeah, and we hope you guys have a good rest of your week, morning, afternoon, night, whatever it is. This has all been very boring without baseball, but hey, hopefully we'll have some news soon, and we'll have more to talk to you guys about.
I've deep dived into basketball.
Yeah, no, that's not my thing. I've been trying to deep dive into baseball. I'm just running out. I literally read like 8 athletic articles yesterday, so we'll see what happens. But with that said, we will catch you guys next week, and have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.
See you later, guys.